outdate myself and talk about Andy Griffith's show. I know many of you don't know about it.
Oh God, where they whistle all the time.
If you ever watched that show, he was the epitome of a community police officer and the epitome of a professional law enforcement officer. Because the tool that he used to solve problems, to help his community, was between his ears and not on his belt. Okay, it wasn't the taser, the pepper spray, and all the other things that are tools, legitimate tools of the law enforcement profession, but the one tool that often gets lost is what's between your ears. That's what's going to keep you safe as an officer, and it's going to help you do your job. Some of the possible barriers to building trust is a thing called LEOBOR. Many of you probably never heard of LEOBOR. That's called the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights. It's about a 50-year-old law in the state of Maryland that really gets very specific on how law enforcement officers are investigated if they engage in alleged misconduct. And I'm not going to go into details about LEOBOR, but one of the things I will point out about it, and I'm a manager, I'm a deputy chief, so I have to manage this law as it relates to how I manage my employees. If an officer gets accused of misconduct, and most accusations of misconduct are not what you see in the news. Okay, they're minor, they're disrespect, it might be a minor use of force, so there's stuff that doesn't make the news, but it's the stuff that erodes that confidence when law enforcement officers are investigating. I can't speak to an officer for 10 days. Some citizen comes to me and says, hey, that officer just called me a name, cursed me out, disrespected me, did whatever. I have to afford that officer 10 days to get a representation before I can talk to him. Okay, that, as you can see, will tie my hands, and the process drags out, and the community loses confidence in complaints to police officers. So we talk about then civilian review boards. We hear that term a lot of jurisdictions have them, but do they understand the job that police officers are doing? And can they judge law enforcement actions? And I kind of compare it to a surgeon who makes a mistake on the table and somebody dies. The people that are going to hear his misconduct or her misconduct are fellow people from the AMA, because they're the ones that have the expertise to judge, did this doctor make a mistake? A civilian review board could not. So that's one of the barriers possibly, is you have civilians that are judging officers' actions. I'll talk about that also as one of our solutions, possibly civilian review boards. Training. Police officers love to train. Okay, we train constantly. We have mandated training through the state. We have in-service training and so forth. But often we just train to train. Okay, are we getting the right training? Okay, who's making those decisions about what kind of training our police officers need in the community to do their job effectively? And that also will be a bullet that will be a possible solution. The thin blue line. How do we change that culture? For those of you who know the thin blue line, cops stay together, they back each other up. And that's a problem in our profession, because officers generally don't like to rat each other out. Okay, why? Because a lot of them have the mentality is if I rat somebody out, okay, even if it's a minor thing and they get in trouble and my life's on the line 2 weeks from now, is that cop going to say, I'm going to take my time getting to you to back you up because you ratted me out? So that perpetuates that culture. How do we change that culture within law enforcement to hold officers accountable? We have almost 700,000 officers in this country. We have some bad officers, as in any profession that has that many people in it. How do we weed out those folks that should not be carrying a gun in their badge, should not be making those decisions to take people's liberties, should not be using force? That's the key for us. And I'll talk about some of the solutions on how we get there. Media, and some of my colleagues touched on this a little bit. Are they portraying reality? Okay, I don't like to call it the news anymore, it's commentary. Whether it's Fox News, whether it's MSN, whether it's CNN, it is not news, it's commentary.
Come on.
Okay, so how do we look at our media and say, what are they doing? What are they trying to do? They're trying to get ratings, obviously. And are they helping the problem, or are they helping the, or not part of our solution? Emerging technologies is one of our solutions. Most agencies that have put in dash cams, which are far cameras and now body cameras, have seen dramatic drops in use of force incidents. Okay, what that means is we don't know why. It's probably for twofold. I think when people are being on the camera, they might act differently, as well as the officer might act differently. So use of force incidents in almost all agencies goes down through the use of body cams. And other technologies as well. GPS tracking where officers are, where they're patrolling, are they in the area of West Baltimore where they can be seen and so forth, or are they someplace else? Training. What kind of training are we going to give that gets us to the goals we want. There's new virtual training simulations. It's hard to train cops in life or death situations. We can't put them in a life or death situation where they have to shoot or they die. Okay, so the training, obviously you can't do that. So the training simulation and the virtual simulators now are starting to become part of law enforcement training, where it gives more reality for folks, okay, who make that split-second decision. And they make that decision in 1 or 2 seconds, and then guys like me sit back and make a decision on whether they did right or wrong. That's the job, though. That's the profession they chose, okay? And they have to take responsibility. And training and other things like diversity and use of force and so forth. That all has to be looked at. So civilian review boards, they see it from both sides. Civilian review boards, are very controversial within our profession. But I would look at a civilian review board and say, I might be okay with it as long as they have the proper training to know. So they might have to go through a police academy. Okay, so they might have to look at all the training that officers do and what they're thinking and how they are making decisions in order to look at an officer's conduct and make that decision on if they did right or wrong. Most civilian review boards, to be honest with you, find pretty much a high percentage that officers didn't do wrong. Okay? So they're not necessarily negative things. Community outreach, I talked about the Andy Griffith Show, Cops on Foot, ride-alongs, so people can see the job from the eyes of the officer as they patrol or as they do foot, what they're doing on a daily basis, what's going through their mind as a communication between, because too many of our citizens don't know what the cops are thinking. Okay, they don't understand what's going through our minds and why they're taking certain steps. So that communication has to happen between officers and the community. So our community understands why we're doing what we're doing, and then we need to change our actions. Our profession is ever evolving. Okay, we need to continue to evolve to stay in the next 10, 15, 20 years to improve how policing happens in this community. Use of social media. Much of our communication and problems, Facebook, there's a lot of others that I don't know. Snapchat, there's another one for you. But how do we use that tool? Our young
sound like
people
someone's
are
dead.
communicating through the use of social media. How do we connect our law enforcement community to our young folks? Okay, because it's got to start at an early age. It's got to start with, officer friendly, okay, where our young people are not afraid of the cops, they're not afraid of communicating with our police in order to build that trust, and then it evolves as people get older. Thank you.